Well, the adventure begins. That means I'm spending money. As I had mentioned in another video, I have had a laser alignment done on the bike. That was $133. The lighting on the bike over and over again, that seems to be the #1 safety feature that you hear about, front and back. And so there's where I'm spending money. In this case, company Sling Mods. I've watched their videos. I really like that the company, on the products that they sell, that they do a YouTube video to install on each one. And as I do my installations at that, I will be copying exactly what they do. So for my video, I'm gonna say this is just so you can see how somebody who doesn't know anything about what they're doing, how it works. And for you, if you're going to try this, that you go to their video and watch someone who knows what they're doing. This little box of lights, I've got for the front fender, it's a turn signal. It's a sequential turn signal, meaning that it goes back and forth, quite showy. The lights that are on the bike, these are, well, they're not lights, they're just reflectors. So we'll replace the reflectors with lights. And several things from watching videos that I liked about these lights, and primarily it really does show, even daytime from the front, but that the bike, because of the design of it, that the back also, that this light will be showing. And that's just, the lights that are on the bike they're pretty good, but it's, in today's world with people playing with their cell phones, it just scares me. And of course, that's another one of those things with, okay, so I worry about things more today than I worried about them before. Anyhow, so sequential turn signals on the back end of the bike. This mounts up on the trunk. There are several different things that you can do to enhance the lighting on the back of the bike. It was between this and this was, I think, $159. That mounts up here on the trunk. Am I there? There. And so that mounts up on the trunk. I like that it's up that high. It works with running lights, brake lights, and turn signals. And other things that I'd looked at to consider for that is that you can buy strip lights maybe that run around the back of it that will also do these same things. And a little cheaper, I think those were about 110 maybe. But to me, I like that it was up higher. I like that when it's mounted, it looks factory. And I had concerns about those other lights as to what they would really look like when it got through with it and how they might hold up over a period of time. So that's the way I went. The replacement for the headlights, the 2015 had the older lights on it, so we're moving up to LED lights for the headlights and moving up to LED headlights for the LED fog lights. This little gizmo, probably can't see much about it in there, but it fits in the line for the brakes. And what it will do is make it that when you press the brake, that the lights will give like 3 little quick flashes. So it'll make it more eye-catching. And the way that I'm going to wire this, it'll have it to where the factory lights will do that, and the new light that I'm going to add. Here's what we look like straight from the factory. And this is what we're going to look like when we get through. We hope. Certainly for me, and I would think with anybody else that's a first time trying to accomplish something like this, the thought of putting a drill bit to this, that's scary. I've drilled different things, and at the same time I know bits can move and bits can go to the wrong place. So I must say that's the most frightening thing I see about this whole task. So we'll start undoing these. For those of you who do this type of work or some similar type of work, just forgive me to understand. So I think that should release this. How about that? So far, so good. As I move through this, I'll have my laptop that I'll be following the YouTube that Sling Mods did on this installation. Okay, I have checked my YouTube. First thing I noticed, so I think I quoted a price incorrectly earlier. This was $178. So, what they recommend is that you take some masking tape. In my case, it just so happened I had the same color they worked with. So, then 5/16 drill bit. And if I seem to be stalling, it's just because I am. They say to measure and measure and then measure, and I am all in agreement with that. So I'm going to get as close as I can to try to mark where these wires are coming out. That thing of drilling a hole that's going to be there for a long time, it really gets my attention. It's really taking longer than I thought. Concerns me. Am I drilling something? No. There. Let you in on the pain. All right, we're through. Actually cut very smoothly. In case you notice the sweat, yes, it's quite warm, and also probably a little nervous sweat there from cutting into that. 5/16 hole is snug. That's good. There won't be any wiggle room in it, I can tell you that. All right. What do you think? I've cleaned it with the alcohol pad. So Now, the next big step is that I glue this or stick this on properly. Okay, well, we're this far into the project. So now we move to the rest of it. The sun's moved to a point where I felt I would be better off under the garage. So hopefully the lights with the doors being opened will not drive it crazy, and hopefully a couple fans blowing won't distort the sound too badly. All right, so from here, we'll take the T30 torque and remove these 4 screws. Then we open the saddlebags, and we'll remove the 2 on this side, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay, I'm going to set these aside and label them. And yes, I am filming this and doing it by myself, so forgive whatever. Then it says to carefully remove this, which I'm all for careful. Sure wish I knew how careful worked. It's like kind of there, it's kind of under that armrest there. Okay, it's one side up. We can show you a little better. There's some little clips there that fit in those holes. So, if I'm making you dizzy, sorry about that. And then we'll come over here. And again, you can see how it kind of fits under that little rest there. So, all right. So, ta-da for that part. Next, we'll remove these speaker pods on the left. At looking at it, there are 3 screws inside the trunk that have to come loose. It doesn't say anything about these 2. So I'll have to see what happens as I move forward. I know I don't have enough light to adequately show this, but take my word for it. There are 3 screws here that I have to pull out. Okay, I'm going to stop and label these. We'll remove this speaker now. Concerns me because they say this can be a little tricky. Everything has been a little tricky to me. I can see where it kind of grabs up there. Still don't understand. Oh, okay, so those screws just stay in place, kind of like they said. So what's got me? That didn't sound great. Yeah, there we go. All right, in here, if you can see, there are 2 wire connections. And they say to mark one so you know where to put it back to. And I understand why, because both of the wires running in there are identically the same green. So, alright, that I took the masking tape and I marked what was the top wire, and it was actually easier to just go ahead and pull those wires, keep my hands on the top one, and then put that tape on it. So now, speaker unit's loose. I can tell you from what you didn't just hear is that don't just lay it up here and hope that it's going to sit there, because when it falls, it makes a really bad sound that you don't want to hear. Now we'll undo these 3 screws. And then 2 screws down the saddlebag section. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. And I will suggest to you, this one, I don't know if it's going to make it or not, that you do mark, yeah, I think I might have to remove that, that you do mark these screws, because there are several different sizes that you deal with that go in these different places. And I have managed to squeeze in enough without having to remove that support, whatever the proper name is for it. And now we can lower this panel. Now we take this trunk cover with this beautifully installed light and we put it up here. And we're going to run the wires through this opening. Now we get to put the screws back in the trunk lid, which pleases me to get it stable. And by the way, the holding the screws, where I had them over there and then put masking tape over them, that really worked well to keep things from rolling around. Okay, got the screws back in place, trunk lid is mounted. I would say I would just be cautious because you're dealing with plastic. So while you want it to be snug, you don't want to obviously go too tight. Now we'll remove 3 screws that hold the tail light on. 1, 2, 3. We're back on the T30 Torx here. And this one has a washer under it, and I had watched another video where they said to mark this one. So I will. It doesn't show that in the Sling Mod video. Right, so we'll remove the left tail light, and it seems that no matter what I do, the position's not quite right. But there is something that holds these wires together. I'll show you when I pull it out. There. So we disconnect this from the bike, and then we'll need to peel this back just a little bit to where we have room for these wire crimpers, what they call them, T-taps. That the T-tap, and basically when you squeeze it down, it cuts into the wire and makes a connection. I did have to peel some of the cover back a little to give me some room to work. So now we'll take the T-tap and it says to use wire crimpers, which would be great, but I don't have any, and I'm not stopping to go get any, so I think a pair of channel locks will do just fine. And snap that in place. You do need to pay attention to the directions on this part. I was trying to get in a hurry because as I watched the Sling Mod video, it appeared to me as they went through and described each wire connected that they simply connected each one, and I thought that was odd that they, instead of just saying do all of them. So I just grabbed me a handful, started with the black wire, and then realized I didn't have enough T-tap connectors to do everything. So went back, rewatched, then the realization there are 5 wires that come into this connector, and you only put a T-tap on 4 of them. The center wire, which is brown, you don't connect to. So I was just lucky that I was hooking up to one of the right wires. So I've got my T-taps connected to all but the middle wire. And now we'll put these ends on here. Would have been nice if some little guy at some company had done it. However, we get to do it. For all you amateurs such as myself with limited shop tools, have got these on. Now this was difficult to me, and the reason for it is that this little bitty piece of wire on the end has to go all the way up into here, and it's very difficult to be able to see to know whether you've got it right or not. So what I managed to do was when I would slide it up in there, and I would hold it up to the light so that I could see that it went up in the right place. Now after it got in there, where before I'd use my old channel locks to cramp down on the T-taps, that didn't work here. So I had my wire skinners that actually have a little crimping spot on them to get the crimp on it, and that did hold the crimp. So now we pulled the blue wire that was in that set over to the right side, and we take out the screws here. And then I'll put those up. On the right side, I've taken the tail light assembly off and put a T-tap connector here. They say it's a gray wire. Maybe it's my eyes, looks pink to me, but it does seem to go to the blinker, and that's where it should be going. And then we've also put the end on the blue wire, if you can see that. So from here we could go ahead and connect, but I'm going to put the flasher on now since I'm right in the middle of it. Okay, that snapped there. And that snapped back there. So this is the first one of these I've hooked back up. And that goes there. Okay. So I'll put the tail light back in place, and then we'll go to the other side. Then back on the left side, we take the green wire and plug it into the black wire tap. Take the yellow wire, plug it into the white wire tap. And I have to confess that I saved myself some embarrassment when I had the camera off as I tried to install this light upside down. It just doesn't fit that way. So we'll try doing it the right way and see if that works any better. I think it did. Another thing is, again, with the screws, as you move from one part to the other, you can get forgetful, and having these things marked, and I've written on each one where it came from, has been very helpful to me. And there are 2 screws that have washers on them. I don't know the significance of that. Each one on this side up here and one on the other side on that same corner. I don't know the why. There's a place where there's some room for movement, so I'm sure it has something to do with it, but I really don't know the total purpose there. All right, before we go any further then, it's time for moment of truth. Well, that's a good sign. So that should be the running lights, left turn signal, looking good. Right turn signal, okay. And emergency flashers. That really does make a difference. Well, at that point, I'm gonna wrap up a few last wires here and put some final screws back in. Call it done. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Hope it gives you some encouragement that, yeah, even if you don't know what you're doing, you can get this done. And as someone had told me on one of the videos in the comments, that I was very fortunate that I was an amateur, and therefore I could not be held liable for what I presented. So thanks for watching. See you later. And for those of you who went, hey, what about the brake lights? What do you think?